What is up, Nuggets? It's your boy, Killer Pizza, here with a brand new video for you rascals and rapscallions out there. As always, I hope everybody's having a great weekend, watching some spooky movies and whatnot. And right off the rip, I got to apologize for the late upload. You guys know I normally do them at noon, but truth be told, your boy just slept in really late today. I slept into like 1:30, and I don't apologize for shit. It was nice. I had a really good slumber, so I could have kept sleeping, but luckily here in Michigan, this is probably the most amount of snow we've gotten all year. So even if I wanted to get out, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So a bit of a lazy day today, then back to the grind tomorrow. Also, if you guys want to be a part of a watch along, I'm going to be on Goraphobe's channel today at 6 o'clock as we're going to do a watch along for my very favorite movie, Return of the Living Dead. It'll be my first time ever doing a watch along, so it should be pretty interesting. But anyways, on to today's video. This is going to be Cult Classics Volume 3. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this concept, I've done 2 of these prior, and it's pretty much just mini reviews of everything I've watched recently. And I think if you guys like this format, I might start doing some reviews maybe once a month in the same kind of way, where I just condense them all into one video, everything I've pretty much watched lately. And if you want to give me a follow on Letterboxd, Killer Pizza, my buddy Sean got me into it. It's a lot of fun over there. I pretty much reviewed all these movies on my Letterboxd. Give me a follow, I'll follow you back, all that fun stuff. But anyways, let's get into the movies. I have 13 movies I watched recently. Let's talk about them. Here is a beautiful release. I know a lot of people said this was release of the year. The Hitcher. I picked this up at Static Tape Video in Muskegon, which I will be there April 19th. So hopefully I can see you guys up there as well. Linnea Quigley is going to be there. Get to finally meet her. But this was a really good movie. Like, when I first heard about this, because I never heard about this growing up, I just didn't see where the fun would be. I don't really like cat and mouse, like chase movies and everything. But I'll just say the main guy, the main actor, what was his name? Rutger Hauer. That guy is absolutely crazy. And just the look in his eyes, he's terrifying. Pretty much a story of a hitchhiker gets picked up by this kid who's driving a car across country. And then within the first 20 minutes, he's just making this kid's life a living hell, pretty much stalking him down. There's a scenario where the kid kind of gets framed, and he's the one that the cops think is the murderer and everything. But a really fun cat and mouse movie. I think ahead of its time in a lot of ways. This was really good. Just a lot of action sequences and everything, and it kind of keeps you guessing. This was a very fun movie. I'm glad I picked that up. I kind of regretted grabbing it at first, but not now. Okay, and here is one I have talked about quite a bit on my channel. I love this movie to death. It's one of my favorite vampire movies. This is Vamp. So it's pretty much 2 kids trying to make it into like a fraternity, and they offer to go pick up like a stripper for the party. And that's how they're going to get initiated. They go to this backwoods kind of town, and they find the stripper they want to bring back, but they don't realize that the town is infested by vampires. It's kind of like Dusk Till Dawn in a way. But this is just a really fun comedy movie, comedy horror. I really like the dynamic between the lead and the girl interest that he has. And the 2 friends dynamic is a lot of fun, too. They have the guy that was in the Asian guy from 16 Candles. Can't remember what his name is in this movie, but he's probably my favorite character. He's a lot of fun, and this is just a very interesting take on a vampire movie. It's got the main kid from Meatballs in here, so I kind of joke that this is like a sequel to Meatballs. But this is just, if you're into like campy horror, vampire stuff, this is a lot of fun. A lot of twists and turns at the end as well. All right, now to one of my very favorite movies of all time, that is American Pie. And I'll tell you what, this 4K looks amazing. I'm very happy they announced Part 2 coming out on 4K. I'll pick that up too. It's a nice chunky box. What is it, 88 films, I believe, put this out. Yep. And for me, this movie just does it all for me. You know, for raunchy teen sex comedies, this came out when I was the right age. I was probably a little too young to be watching this at the time, but it's just a time capsule. It's not meant to be a perfect movie. It's just great characters, great development, great soundtrack, very funny, laughs nonstop. And I mean, I'm sure everybody watching this video has seen American Pie, but if you haven't picked up this 4K version of it, I suggest you do it, because this looked amazing. I know some people don't think comedy movies really deserve 4K, but this one looked great. One of my all-time favorites. Okay, now here is one I picked up randomly. I had to buy something else off Amazon, and you guys know the sickness, so I'm like, let me grab a Blu-ray as well. I grabbed Hot Tub Time Machine because I have Hot Tub Time Machine too. I bought like on a Black Friday sale one time. I don't know how I didn't own the original, but this is a prime example of like a movie not having to be perfect. This is when comedy movies were actually funny as fuck, like just really raunchy, funny stuff. The one friend they think is going to commit suicide, so they take him up to their old stomping grounds, this like lodge where they used to go skiing and everything, and they get drunk in the hot tub and they travel back in time into the 80s, and we pretty much have like an 80s comedy ski movie, like a mountain movie. And those are always fun. Like I love the movie Hot Dogs and everything. Another great cast, really raunchy comedy. Like this really goes out there and everything, and where this lacks in some departments, it makes up with the laughter. You know, it's joke after joke after joke, and this is a classic right here. Very funny stuff, very raunchy. The sequel's pretty good too. Okay, now here's one I think a lot of you guys might not have heard of. This came out through Scream Factory. This is Frankie Frico. Now this was a really fun movie. Under 90 minutes, real easy watch. You can see Frankie right there on the back. Pretty much think like Garbage Pail Kids. That's the best way I could describe it. Like it was our Garbage Pail Kids is something else with the way I was describing it. Shit, I can't remember. This review series is off to a great start. But Frankie Frico, under 80 minutes, this uptight guy that works in the office ends up calling his hotline late at night to summon the monster Frankie Frico and his friends to kind of show him how to live life and show him how to party. They end up becoming friends, and he's got to save them from like this other dimension where this big mean boss is trying to enslave all the little puppet monsters. Yeah, this is like Little Monsters meets Garbage Pail Kids in a way, but it has a really surprisingly charming ending to this, and it's just a fun movie. Frankie Frico. I suggest checking that one out. Now, here's one it felt like was the first time I ever seen this because it's been so long, but the 4K of Karate Kid. Like, you know when you watch a movie as a kid, but then, like, you forget all about it, like, what happens? This is just a really good movie. It's a classic for a reason. I think the highlight of this is Daniel-san and Mr. Miyagi's, like, friendship they have in here. And, I mean, to be honest, it's just a pretty straight and dry kids, like, sports movie in a way. Like, I know this is a lot of people's favorite movie of all time for that era, this style of movie. I loved it a lot. But just a fun watch and everything. I think Daniel-san might be the villain after all. When you like, if you ever went down a rabbit hole and looked on like YouTube, how he's actually the villain. He's the one starting all the fights and everything. But I digress. Just a simple, fun movie about karate. You know, I think the biggest part of the story is him learning more about himself and everything the old martial arts way. But yeah, nothing more, nothing less. I loved it. You know, good movie. I'm more of a Mighty Ducks kind of guy. I'll just put it that way. Okay, what do we got? Now, I'll just go over this real briefly. I watched this the other night. This is a 5-star movie for me, one of my all-time favorites, True Romance. I threw this on again. I've preached off the rooftop for everybody to watch this movie if you've never seen it. Written by Quentin Tarantino, and it's pretty much Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette. Christian Slater's like this Elvis-obsessed like comic book nerd, and his boss hires a prostitute so he can get laid on his birthday, and they end up falling in love and end up taking off with the drug dealer's briefcase full of drugs, and they have all the feds, the DIA, the mob, everyone's after them. It's just a really fun take on like a modern day Bonnie and Clyde, and they show what true romance is. Great soundtrack, just a really fun action packed movie. I love this one to death. Next up, we have the talk of the town right here, the one everyone was talking about. That is Rumpelstiltskin. Now, this was a first-time watch for me. I will say I did prefer this over Leprechaun because it had the same director. That's the way people have been comparing this. But beautiful release through TerraVision. I just thought the design of the monster was a lot of fun. The movie flowed really well. I love his one-liners and jokes better than Leprechaun. It's pretty much another chase movie. It's pretty much like The Hitcher, but with Rumpelstiltskin. No, he's trying to take this woman's baby, this widowed woman. Her husband died, and she's raising the baby on her own. Rumpelstiltskin comes out of this tomb, and he grants her wish, and in return, he gets the baby. And she's pretty much just running from him the whole time. You get to see Rumpelstiltskin riding a motorcycle, driving a 18-wheeler, and like I said, the one-liners are just really funny. I love the one of the main characters that comes in. It's like this really raunchy talk radio guy that's on TV, and he ends up meeting up with the girl and saving the day in a lot of ways. I just found his humor and his raspiness and his delivery was really funny to me. I can't remember the character's name. I would say one flaw for this movie that really drove me crazy was just so much of the baby crying nonstop. It got to be a little much at one point, but I really liked Rumpelstiltskin. Okay, now next up, this is the last movie I've watched, and this one blew my mind, you guys. I'm a big fan of the movie Kids, Larry Clark, 2001's Bully. This movie is so fucked up. Pretty much based off a true story, a bunch of teenagers in South Florida, this bully's fucking with him. It's like the one kid's best friend, and he's doing everything from the lowest level to the highest level of like making fun of people, fighting people, all the way up to like sexual assault on this girl. Like, so just like the movie Kids, there's a lot of scenes in this that are very, very hard to watch, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to everybody, but it's kind of one when it ends, it has a good message to it, you know what I mean? Maybe not a good message, but like a message that's heavy in reality, you know, is based off a true story. They pretty much come up with a scheme to kill the bully, like 6, 7, 8 of the friends, and it's a very graphic scene when they kill him. But it is intense. This is one of the movies that when I got done watching it for the first time, I just kind of sat there for a minute like, holy shit, that was some heavy stuff. So, Bully, that was a good one right there. And then I streamed 4 movies that I don't own. I'll just go over them briefly. First of all was Doc of Chucky. It's pretty much the definitive Chucky documentary. If you ever seen Crystal Lake Memories or Never Sleep Again, I believe those are the names of the Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th documentaries. Pretty much the same exact thing, a Talking Heads documentary. So it's kind of hard to judge it and how good it was. You know, it was over 6 hours long, I believe. They go over every single movie up to the remake, and they don't talk about the show or anything, but they get a lot of cast and crew to talk about all the movies. And it's just like, if anything you want to know about the franchise, it's in here. So definitely worth a watch. It is on Shudder. And then, what else? I'm trying to think off the top of my head what these were. Okay, I also watched Meatballs with Bill Murray. Like I said, Vamp is pretty much a sequel to this, the same character. I'm just kidding, but, you know, I believe it was late 70s when this came out. It's pretty much just camp comedy. Bill Murray runs the camp, and they have this big competition at the end, like this Olympic track and field kind of day where like the kid that gets made fun of ends up winning the race for everybody. And I wouldn't really say there's much to this, but I think it was pretty innovative at the time, you know, for what it was. I love like camp comedies, and Bill Murray's performance, obviously one of the funniest guys around, you know, absolute legend. I love anything with Bill Murray in it. Okay, the next up we have In a Violent Nature, I watched on Shudder. And I'm going to tell you what, guys, a lot of people talked about this movie. It was a very interesting concept, but this was a stinker. I did not like this movie. It had its moments. It was mostly a lot of this killer just walking around in the woods. I love the idea of the concept. I was saying if they would have split half the time of him walking around and like showing the kids from their perspective, maybe there would have been a little more depth to it. I mean, it was a pretty easy watch for how boring it was at times, and the kills were really good, really violent. There's 2 in particular that were really graphic, so I got to give them that for the gore. But innovative idea. It was just okay. I didn't care for it too much. I don't think I would go back and watch it again. And then last but not least, I know I could have made a video about this on its own because I think this would have gotten some pretty good views, but I'm talking Dark Match. This is the horror movie with Chris Jericho in it. He plays the villain. He's the executive producer. But this was just a fun throwback slasher and everything. Pretty much a small town, like independent wrestling company gets a booking in this like rural town, and they're getting a huge payday to do it, but things just aren't adding up. It ends up being hosted by like the satanic cult led by Chris Jericho. So that was kind of fun. I really enjoyed the scenes in like this mansion where they're partying and everything. That was all shot really well. But it's just sometimes when you have scenes where you have to fight to the death, like in a pro wrestling ring, it's kind of hard where you're going with the concept and everything. It's hard to pull off, I should say. Like overall, this was just a fun slasher. If you go into this not expecting much, you're going to have fun with it because it wasn't bad. I won't say it's bad. I just had a lot of nitpicks in particular, like a lot of the gear these guys were wearing. It was supposed to take place in the 80s. Like, guys weren't really wearing like shooters like that, unless their gimmick was an amateur wrestler. And I just thought some of the ring attire didn't really match. I know a big critique I had is the championship belt that they had is like, if you're in the business, you would know it's a very generic indie wrestling belt you can get. A lot of companies, when they buy like a cheap belt, that's usually the one they always have. And they had the cheap indie belt on there with just the logo ironed on of the group on the belt. And I'm thinking, oh, you guys could have done a little better than that. And my biggest critique, this is a spoiler right here, is at one point they're talking about the cult is doing all this because they're making snuff tapes to sell and get rich. But then on the other hand, they start saying it's for like a sacrifice, to sacrifice 5 bodies in like a pentagram, like pull this monster up from hell. But they bounce back and forth with that. It's like, what is it? Is it for snuff film money, or is it for the satanic cult? So there was a lot of holes in this movie, mostly in the third act. But overall, it was a fun movie to watch. I would suggest checking it out. But anyways, that is it. That is my 13 quick reviews. I know I didn't go into super depth with some of these movies. I don't think I'm the best reviewer. I just decided to give my thoughts on these movies. So let me know if this is a concept you want me to keep running with. Let me know if you want more long running reviews. Just let me hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you've seen any of these movies. Obviously, any suggestions for movies, I'm always up for it. Any individual reviews, that's something I'll always do. If you request a movie in particular, I'll do a full form review, no problem. But anyways, like I said, hopefully everybody's having a good one. Stay warm out here. It is, like I said, it's a bitch here in Michigan. And 6 o'clock, we're going to do the Return of the Living Dead watch along on Gorophobe's channel. So hopefully I'll see you guys over there. Blood Guts Gore. I'll check you guys next time.